I kept thinking, watching them yesterday, just how Bush League it was, and how those generals and those admirals afterwards were just shaking their heads, going, "My God, what a clown show!" And that's what they were thinking. That's what so many people in the military, even if members of the military support the president, and there are a good number that do support the president, this sort of speech and doing this with generals and admirals, Bush League. I want to talk about the culture really quickly before we let you go, just to explain to viewers something that I was blessed to be able to see when I was a member of the Armed Services Committee for 4 terms. I got a chance to see generals and admirals up close, to figure out what drove them. And it was, of course, a love of country. But as I was saying to some people in 2020, when they're saying, "Oh, no, the military, Donald Trump's going to get the military, they're going to rise up and they're going to keep Donald Trump in power," I said, no, you don't understand the military. They will not do that. And I said, for several reasons. But as I've always said, and I'd like you to explain this, there's a peer pressure in all the right ways, because every general and every admiral has a mentor who's a retired general and a retired admiral. And I always saw when one stepped out of line, this band of brothers would come together. And they were always looking. I had chief of staffs of the Air Force. And I had them looking to their retired generals, or in the Navy, retired admirals, for guidance. And that was their audience too. They understood they were duty bound by the Constitution, but also by those whose shoulders they were standing on in their position. Can you please talk about that just for a minute, to explain that this is so much more than just a room of 800 military leaders? There's a collective room, really, the spirit of, teaching them duty, honor, and country, of tens of thousands of people still with us and no longer with us, that are guiding those generals and admirals.
Yeah, Joe, I'd love to talk about that for a second. First of all, I'll shout out to my mentors. I've got about 5 of them. The biggest one is General Fred Franks, who was a 4-star general when I was a young major working for him. He took me under his wing. He's still living, and a great example. Lost a leg in Vietnam and understands, and rose to the rank of 4-star when he was commanding Desert Storm. John Abizaid, who many people know from his service, Rick Shinseki. I could go on and on again, the guys who mentored me throughout, and I mentor a few others, and the few that I mentor were contacting me last night. Barry McCaffrey, who you're going to have on in a little while, was also one of my mentors. That's a core of the professional force. What is also important to know, to address the points that you made, is the military is a profession. It is not a business. They don't get paid very much, but they do it for something bigger than themselves that no one else in the society could do. That's an element of a profession. Another element of a profession is they have a professional code of ethics and values, which are embedded in each individual. A third element of a profession is that fellow professionals discipline and even dismiss others within the profession if they violate the norms of the profession, which gets to what you're talking about. So those are 3 of the 5 elements of a profession which hold us together tightly and cause the military to do things differently. And the last one is the caring for soldiers. The big part about what we're seeing today is not loyalty just to the oath of office, but it's also loyalty to those we lead, and a shared trust between the leaders and the led. And those men and women in the room yesterday cannot let their soldiers or Marines or airmen or sailors down in terms of standing up for them and what right looks like. So you've hit a very good point. That's what makes us very different.